All right. Let's get this baby rolling. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. For sureties. So, chat has already been started by Human. Striking first, saying Jimmy Dore taking credit for the rent strike. Yeah. I don't know. I think, yeah, Jimmy Dore has been doing that a lot lately, like taking credit for being, you know, ahead of everybody else. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing, slightly. And by slightly, I mean majorly egotistical. But you know, I think he's trying to defend his position of being like, you know, ahead of certain trends in progressive media that are, you know, might be generally unpopular. You know, he takes a lot of heat, I think, for, you know, speaking out against certain things, you know, at a time when speaking out against these things is wildly unpopular and, you know, people can be really abrasive and abusive. Like, you know, for instance, you know, Jimmy Dore was, you know, definitely one of the original people talking about how Russiagate was a thing, was a hoax, was a conspiracy theory, and I totally agree with him. And it's really difficult to say that. Even if I say that right now, I'm positive somebody will get in the chats right now, or at least get on the comments of this video talking about the Mueller report stated that Russia interfered with it. No, they did not. The Mueller report was a fucking pile of garbage, and it was just all smoke and mirrors, and it's all fucking based on bullshit. So let's just get that out of the way. You know, it's still difficult to talk about, but you know, so many people understand now that Russiagate is fucking bullshit. So more and more people are understanding it's bullshit. It's not a thing that I necessarily have to defend against as much as I used to. The first time I brought it up, I mean, people's heads exploded on this channel. I lost all kinds of subscribers. People were like, "Oh my God, how could you say these things?" Oh, you know, as if, you know, I was some wild-eyed, you know, secret Trump supporter. But, you know, the more that the progressive media space has enlarged itself, or, you know, proposed these viewpoints, you know, with evidence to back it up, and, you know, the more it's not that out of the realm of, you know, logic that this was, you know, a bunch of bullshit. But there are still people that believe fully and wholly in the Mueller report and in Russiagate. It's still a contested issue. But anyways, you know, yeah. So Jimmy Dore has been absolutely on fire lately. I mean, he's been like, you literally see the froth coming out of his mouth during his shows now, because he's super pissed at the progressives, super pissed at Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Tulsi Gabbard, everybody, who basically kind of sold us out in all of the stimulus package. There wasn't really much of a maneuver. There wasn't much maneuvering at all. You know, it passed the Senate unanimously, and it passed the House, you know, pretty much unanimously. So even the, you know, the people that were maybe counted on or were supposed to help fight, you know, against the enormity of the giveaway towards the, you know, the elites and the banking system and the corporations, right? You know, there was very little dissent on the side of Democrats. and especially the progressive. So he's super pissed about that. And he thinks that there should be, you know, some major, massive resistance to what is going on right now. And, you know, I agree with him for sure on many levels about this. He bashed the shit out of Bernie Sanders yesterday, which I think Bernie Sanders actually deserves the bashing. You know, Bernie Sanders in recent times has proven himself either unable or unwilling to really go against the DNC or go against the powers that be or go against, you know, the corporate lobbies and the corporate interests that kind of control everything. He's, you know, he's proven himself to be progressive mainly in word and posture only. And it's very disheartening to see. It truly is. I think it's a good thing that Bernie Sanders is still in the race. I think that he should continue to remain in the race. I still think that he's the furthest left, with the most visibility, the farthest left politician with the most visibility and the highest chance to still gain the highest office in the land. So there's still a path for him, as narrow. And so, yeah, I'm going to replay a video that he played in order to just get the word out. So I agree with him that in the progressive space, progressive channels should get the word out about the entities, the organizations that are trying to pursue methods of resistance. And the reason why I'm doing this is because not only do I agree with the position that there should be a general strike or a general rent strike. I also think that this is an avenue that those in the climate change space can use in order to further protests or further the agenda. So please remember to like the video and to make sure that you are still subscribed if you are watching this. Thank you. TCR Galaxy with the second comment of the day. I just can't listen to Dore anymore. His inability to talk about the elephant in the room just baffles me. Too many humans consuming too much shit. Come on, Jimmy. Well, and that's why, you know, it's not just Jimmy Dore, but I see a few other progressive news channels kind of doing the whole, like, I've been talking about this for ages. I've been way ahead of this, you know, issue. And the funny thing is even though all the progressive channels agree that climate change is an issue, they're not really talking about the reality of how quickly climate change is happening or the inevitable consequences of climate change happening, you know, near-term human extinction, or, you know, they might give lip service to it and they might mention it once in a while. But I actually have heard one progressive channel say they don't do climate change videos because they're so bad, but they're such ratings losers. And I think all the progressive channels know this, that when you do climate change videos, it's a loser. Nobody wants to watch it. Nobody wants to talk about it. So, you know, I find it insincere when progressive channels are like, know that it's really popular to talk about political issues or talk about political situations, or talk about the current political climate, but they won't talk about climate change, you know, specifically, or won't really do a deep dive into the specifics of climate change because they know what a difficult subject it is. And they know that it pretty much, if you look at the world and politics through the lens of climate change, even the progressive political agenda looks totally different. I mean, it kind of blows it out of the water, right? Because, again, I've been talking about this for a long time. Humanitarianism versus, I don't know what you would call, is a word for putting the biosphere first. Environmentalism, I guess, is, blanket term. Sorry about all the noise, guys, but if you look through the world through the lens of, putting the biosphere first, what would you call that? I don't know. I mean, biospherism. I'm not really sure what a good term would be. Maybe something other than doomer or climate doomer or near-term human extinctionist or something. But when you put the biosphere first, actually it makes humanitarianism look a little strange, right? Because, again, when you put the biosphere first, it actually impinges on some of the humanitarian agenda, and even some of the progressive agenda, as far as like trying to make, a new Green Deal happen, or creating, everything through renewable technology. And, you got to go much farther than that. And in that sense, all of the progressive channels are way behind, way behind the curve. And not only that, but they're cynically and intentionally not talking about this subject because it's too difficult of a subject for them to talk about. So, whatever. I've said a few times that this is the most progressive channel of all the progressive channels because, or at least the channels dealing with climate change are the most progressive channels, because the bigger, the more established progressive channels don't necessarily deal with it all that much. And it's still just an aside. It's still just like all these issues. Oh, and climate change, it's like, they just throw crumbs to the climate change crowd. They don't really deal with it head on. And when Jimmy Dore interviewed Gail Bradbrook, she was leagues ahead of him as to what needed to be done in the realm of climate change, and he was still just like, renewable energy, and she was like, yeah, not so much. How about population control, or rewilding, or regreening, or degrowth? How about that? How about degrowth? Much of the progressive space is taken up by people, talking about, talking about economics, basically. And if we look at the world through the lens of climate change, the entire economic system has to, be completely reconfigured, go all the way down, be centered on degrowth and not growth, major changes, which mean totally, living in a totally different way for human beings than the way that we live. Daniel Sway says, if you would do an interview with Pink Barrio, I think you're talking about, it would be cool. He is no doomer anyway. Great mind. Request from a doomer. I haven't done an interview with Pink Barrio. Maybe we can set that up. That would be cool. I'd be open to that. Rolf Jander says, putting the environment above all would mean rooting for the virus to wipe us all out. There's a part of me that is like that. We have different sides to our own selves. Yeah. And that's, well, no representation. I'm about to actually play it for you because technology, but give me a second. Yeah, I mean, somebody in the comment section was like, "You're rooting for, the oil industry, the fossil fuel industry to collapse, and that would mean death for millions of people." Well, the oil, even if the oil industry's collapsed, as I have said multiple times, governments would take over the oil industries and make sure that at least basic necessities were powered, most likely. But yeah, it probably would mean hardship for a lot of people. But that's the thing is that ultimately, eventually, Mother Nature is going to collapse some part of the biosphere, some part of our environment, that will cause millions of humans to die. I'm not necessarily rooting for that, but that's what's going to happen because we can't, control ourselves. So, and I find that the fossil fuel industry is ultimately, an evil entity. It's a vampire squid that's destroying the world. So I actually would rather see the fossil fuel industry collapse and see governments take over or nationalize fossil fuel production. I think it would, they'd be doing it out of necessity, and they'd be, just keeping people alive that way. And, you would take all of that marketing and exploration and investment, you take all that out of the economy and away from the fossil fuel companies if they did collapse. And it would also make military endeavors much more difficult, I think. That's the main reason why governments would nationalize fossil fuel industries, because they'd have to make sure that they had oil in order to keep their militaries afloat. But anyways, all of that being said, I do agree with Jimmy that the rent strike thing is really important. So this is pretty wild. There's an entity in Los Angeles, and I don't know, called LA Tenant Union. And they organized this strike, this rent strike, and check out what they did. They had people in their cars driving around Mayor Garcetti's house, honking their horns, and they had signs like pasted on their cars. Pretty brilliant. And this might be the future of protesting for all kinds of different issues, but climate aware people and climate strikers take note. This is maybe a new avenue for protest in order to do this. Let's see. I'll play this for you. Did that work out for you? Just give me a thumbs up and let me know if you all saw that video work out on my screen. It's kind of the first time. Oh, I'm seeing it now, so I guess it did work out. No? You heard it? No vid on full screen? Hold on. I'm going to try it again just because I'm trying out this thing here. I knew that was going to happen. I knew it. Let's see. Is it working for you? Right.
Tell him that he has a responsibility to the citizens of LA, and we need him to have no evictions, no rent, and no vacancies. Keep everyone at home now.
All right. That kind of sort of worked and not really, but sorry guys, I'm just trying out some new technology today. Bear with me. But the fractal one void, yes, is quite interesting. Oh, I see what happened. So anyways, guys, I was trying to make that work. I'm farther away than I thought I was closer than I am to making that work out. But oh, the unstoppable kind of sort of, yeah. Yeah, there's still some bugs through it. I just figured it out this morning, so I didn't really know how it was going to work. Raza says, "Please stop it, Kevin." Yeah, I'll get it straight next time. Anyway, so I'll link that post for the video in the description box, and we'll watch it on another day, or you watch it on your own. So anyways, you know, this is a really great idea. I mean, you could even, if you really wanted to go full shutdown, you could get a rally of cars together and go shut down whole streets or shut down whole freeways. Surround buildings, shut down buildings, right? You can surround the building and keep people from going into a building. You know, of course they'll ramp up the penalties for doing stuff like this. You know, they'll probably try to arrest people. They'll probably try to pass ordinances saying this is illegal, you know, to get together like that. You know, they probably have those laws waiting in the wings, but it is a good idea. And I support a rent strike if you don't know who the person that you're renting from, because, you know, sometimes a rent situation can be very personal, right? You can be renting from somebody that you know, somebody who's just a person who owns a property, and they're, you know, there should be rent forgiveness, I think, on a national level. I think that discussion should be a wider discussion. But the thing is, if you're renting from an individual who's relying on a certain amount of income, because if you stop paying rent to somebody who's paying the mortgage on a property, right? You stop paying rent to this person, they stop paying the mortgage, the bank, forecloses on the house, and then you're both shit out of luck. So like, you really have to kind of think it through, depending on who you're renting from. Clay Bomb says they can't arrest us all. That's true. And again, if you're doing any kind of protest where there's a possibility of being arrested, you have to really think through. So, being arrested is out of the question for me. However, I totally and fully support these rent strike protests. And I think that there are other things that we can build strikes around. Maybe, what about, you could protest, I don't know, refineries. You can protest, fossil fuel facilities. You can protest nuclear plants. You could you could protest pipelines, or at least the entrance to maybe fossil fuel facilities around the country. You can protest office buildings. Okay. No. No, I don't. And I don't. There are many reasons. I can't really go into them now, but there's no possible way I can be arrested or put myself in a position where I can be arrested. Yes. Levi James, I have heard that song. TCR Galaxy says, breaking news, 175 million Americans are getting checks. That's like half the population of the United States. Void says checks as in by 5 months. Yes. It looks like it's going to take many weeks for some people to get their money. Well, there's two ways you can get checks. You can get, there's people getting $1,200 checks. There's also people getting unemployment checks if you apply for unemployment. Depending on your state, depending on your situation, you could, it could take anywhere from 2 weeks to, maybe a month and a half, 2 months to get an unemployment check. I don't know. Raza Remen says they will pass interim laws curtailing personal freedoms and then keep them. Bob Jones says, Kevin, that's why they militarize the police as coercion to keep the masses in check when the shit hits the fan. Right, indeed. But there's a lot of groups springing up right now around doing debt strikes, labor strikes. And I failed to cover this the other day. Instacart, one of the deliveries, there was an Amazon worker who was calling for a strike, who got fired. This is from a few days ago. Instacart workers go on strike for better protections amid coronavirus. Amazon and Whole Foods workers are also striking this week for CV-19 related reasons, demanding hazard pay, expanded paid sick leave, and more. So right in the middle of this incredible pandemic, and we're relying on these essential workers to keep everything going, to keep the population functioning on some level. They're like, this is not good enough. We need to. We need better. We need better treatment. So grocery shoppers and drivers working for Instacart went on strike nationwide on Monday to demand better protections, including hazard pay and expanded paid sick leave from the grocery delivery company. As the coronavirus continues to spread across the country, thousands of Instacart grocery shoppers stopped responding to requests for deliveries starting at 8 a.m. local time, insisting they will not go back to work until the company provides them with protective equipment such as hand sanitizer and disinfectant wipes, hazard pay of $5 per order. That should have been a thing that was already a thing for all of these, gig workers. Hazard pay or if you had a difficult pickup, right? So, companies like Uber and Lyft are contracted out by companies who primarily provide transportation for elderly people that are, going from the hospital home or, and they need like extra help. They need help in the car. They have a wheelchair. They have, and so they contract out with Lyft and Uber because it's cheaper, of course, and easier because they don't have to pay, these drivers like $20 or $30 an hour to drive these shuttles around. They've figured out that it's cheaper and easier to have Uber and Lyft do it. But the thing is you're putting it on this Uber and Lyft drivers who are like, just driving around and like all of a sudden, they've got to help, this person with mobility issues. And not everybody is equipped to handle that. Not everybody's car is equipped to handle that. Not everybody has the strength to lift like some walkers or wheelchairs or some equipment into their car. Like all of those things should include hazard pay or like just an automatic extra money for this. But they don't. They just like hire the Lyft drivers and Uber drivers. Go, here you go. Anyways, let me keep reading this story. They send their CEO in San Francisco home, but they're doing nothing for the backbone of their company. Without shoppers, they're nothing, said Sarah Polito, a 28-year-old part-time shopper for Instacart and strike organizer in Newark, New York. She is one of more than 200,000 full-service shoppers who are not employees of Instacart but contractors with limited benefits. In response to workers' demands and their threat to strike, the company announced that a third party would manufacture and distribute hand sanitizer to shoppers. It did not address workers' requests for hazard pay. Company's CV-related paid sick leave of 14 days only applies to workers who have been infected with the virus who have been ordered to quarantine, providing nothing to workers who are immunocompromised or have respiratory conditions. So yeah, this is happening. Demand for online shopping and grocery delivery has increased dramatically in recent weeks. As federal and local governments across the country have ordered millions of Americans to stay home to protect themselves and help stem the spread of the virus. Workers in the grocery and other delivery services nationwide are left on the front lines to service Americans during the outbreak, since the business they worked for are deemed essential and remain open, but the nature of their jobs means they're unable to work from home. Instacart workers on strike are not alone. Amazon workers at a warehouse in Staten Island, New York, also walked out on the job Monday, demanding that the mammoth company do more to keep them safe, including deep cleaning their facility after a worker there was diagnosed with CV-19. Workers at Whole Foods, owned by Amazon, are also planning a nationwide sick out on Tuesday, well, that was a couple days ago, to demand more hazard pay and expanded sick leave. So far, the United States has the highest number of confirmed cases of any nation worldwide, with more than 155. Well, this is an old article because this happened earlier this week. Things are happening quickly. The news is happening quickly. So yeah, this is, I think, encouraging and inspiring. There are protests going on. There is resistance going on to the mistreatment of workers and people everywhere during this situation. And you're going to see more creative ideas around how to protest and how to shut things down. And I think this is a really, again, I've said this before, this is a really good time for the climate change community or climate aware community to figure out creative ways to ramp up awareness around the fact that, this is a good time to transition to low emissions, low impact living, transition our economy. Right now when the economy is all busted up and broken and laying in pieces on the ground, this is a good time to start instituting policies of degrowth. Sorry. I just can't control my hands. Right. This is a good time to transition to, economic degrowth tactics, in order to kind of slingshot into a lower impact way of living. Levi James says, I heard Ecuador is a very tragic situation. Bodies rotting openly in the streets. What? Wow. Lady Ella is going live soon, Human says. I don't think I've watched one of our live streams, so I'll go try and check that out. Caleb Rochester says, if you take enough LSD, you never come down. The best value. Permanent acid trip. Ah. Osama, I've got 4,000 watts of sound. I know you do. Levi James says, Guy said something like, is it really living when at some point you'll have to fight over the last can of HFC's can of peaches? I mean, okay, well, that's a whole other discussion, right? What constitutes living? We're so privileged. We're so entitled. That's entirely why this economy runs the way it does, is because, if you're not living on some, at some standard of living in the common parlance, in the common, understanding of how people live. And, if you're not making enough money to, take a vacation every summer and go on a cruise or, have an entertainment expense or, whatever it might be. People say stuff like that. Well, is that real? That's not living. If you're not doing all that stuff, if you're living hand to mouth, if you're just barely making ends meet, people say that's not living, right? So make more money, do something different, go back to school, get a better job, right? All that, modern, economic paradigm bullshit. So, living off the land and, tilling the fields and, or, hunting and gathering or whatever it might be. There's a whole lot of ways to live that other people might say, well, that's not living. Fighting over the last can of beans is actually living. Somebody's going to live and somebody's going to die, but that's a way to live. That is one way to live. But hopefully that's a little farther off than sooner, but I only say that hopefully. Meaning I don't know how much hope I have for that. You guys know what I was saying. Anyways. Clay Bomb says, life is still good. Let's enjoy the ride. Indeed, I agree with you. Enjoy the beauty of our world, the natural beauty of our world that we have around us. The fact that we can sit here on the computer and talk to each other, and I can sit here and drink coffee and do a live stream with y'all is, a wonderful thing. It's beautiful. Sandy says, my husband is fishing today so I can make cat food. Living. I never leave my property before the quarantine, and I am living. Yeah. I mean, my life has actually not impacted that immensely. In fact, it's actually been impacted for the positive by this whole thing. In some ways, I'd have to chalk it up. You know, in the positive column, I think I've got more checks than in the negative column. But you know, so far, we don't know what's going to happen over the next month or 6. Yes, that's right, Osama. Delicious, delicious coffee. So lastly, in this video, I thought I was going to dazzle you with my new technology, but no such dazzling was had. But I'll figure that out. And then tomorrow you'll be dazzled, okay? I promise. This is a funny story out of the UK. Jeremy Corbyn's brother, Piers, claims Bill Gates and George Soros are behind the CV in bid to cull world's population with poisoned antidote in bizarre conspiracy theory. So, guys, this is all my fault. I actually didn't link him at all. I actually just said, here's what he did, here's what he said, here's what happened. These are just interesting coincidences. That's all I said. But anyways, in my defense, Jeremy Corbyn's brother Piers has claimed that Bill Gates and George Soros are behind the virus. The 72-year-old told followers on Twitter that the illness is an attempt to cull the world's population with a poison antidote. Sharing the bizarre conspiracy theory, he wrote, the CV pandemic was simulated October 2019 by mega-rich control freaks, Bill Gates, George Soros, and cronies. Now it's for real. The aim is a world population cull by their mass vaccination plan containing poison. Yeah, so that's one of the ways that these conspiracy theories get talked about. He openly criticized his brother for turning his back on EU skepticism and ridiculed Labour's policy on Brexit. This came just after he branded Extinction Rebellion deranged. Okay, hold on one second. This came just months after he branded Extinction Rebellion deranged and staged a counter-protest to their climate change demonstrations in London. Okay, so clearly this dude is a bit of a right-wing nutter, but this is not my stance on the connection between Bill Gates and the virus, by the way. So just to clear that up. But I wanted to read that out as some comic relief. I thought you guys might find that funny and interesting. D-Truth, he is a knob. Richard Monroe sounds like a router. Yes, there's routers and all kinds of good stuff going on behind me. Sorry about that. I can't close the door because then my Wi-Fi gets cut off. Still trying to figure that one out too. Rich Diana asks, is that your dentist warming up? Yeah. Oh, dear Lord. Let it not be my dentist. Tweet out at you, or tweet out. Shout out is genstrike.org, General Strike 2020, Rent, Debt, and Labor. It's happening now. I don't know. They're sharing out information about what's going on with rent strikes, debt strikes, labor strikes. And I will put this in the chat now and also link it in the description box below. If you guys want to look into and or join these organizations and find out more information, please do so. And I will be, keeping you posted about tests. I will try and keep you abreast of what is going on. Again, it's Friday and there's a Friday gas strike going on, but I don't even drive my car anymore. I drive my car like 4 blocks down the street to the store like once a week. So it's a gas strike every day for me. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining in. I appreciate you. I will see you back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. for a live stream. And appreciate your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you'd like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.